pondered a topic for this round of Turbo Talks, I was torn between many different ideas. For example, vocal ambiguity as a mode of expression in popular music of the 1980s, in which I would have featured artists such as Jimmy Somerville of the band Bronski Beat. Or the stud muffin Morton Harkett in the band Aha. Then I started to research the sublimation of feminine-sounding male voices in the 1950s, which would have focused on singers like Frankie Valli. I even contemplated the mainstreaming of falsetto in disco music of the 1970s, including bewildering voices such as those of the Bee Gees, and Sylvester. But as soon as I started down each avenue of interest, I was continually forced to contend with the same question. Why were these voices perceived as okay? Moreover, I cannot escape the notion that something much more profound must be afoot. As a doctoral student, slipping and sliding his way down the steep slope toward dissertationville, I find myself approaching substantive and underdeveloped research topics with quite a bit of earnest. More to the point, what is it about the social context of these somewhat unorthodox voices that allow for their acceptance? Or is it that the voice itself possesses inherent qualities that transcend societal norm? For the next few minutes, I'd like to bend your ear to this subject, offer some inchoate ideas, entreat your thoughts and reactions, and marginally entertain. During the past 30 years, much ink has been spilled over the power of the voice to transgress boundaries of culture, race, class, gender, and sexual orientation, particularly in the realm of 20th century popular music. For example, Elvis's sultry and racially controversial voice forever changed the conception of masculinity in American popular culture. Likewise, Mick Jagger's voice and persona shattered the idea of the clean-cut, it's tea time British male. Madonna lambasted orthodoxy time and again, incorporating into her vocal persona and political voice varying degrees of sexuality, feminism, racial and cultural acceptance, family values, and religion. The truth about these artists' physiological voices is that they sound homologous to the visual representation of their sex. Yet there are certain pop vocalists, such as those singers mentioned earlier and many others, who have been able to exist in the mainstream with quite unorthodox voices. These singers' voices challenge the normative pitch ranges and timbres that one might expect to hear, based on the artist's sex. Again, consider Frankie Valli. The use of his strong falsetto tone in context of the existing doo-wop and barbershop quartet atmosphere of the time suggests a complicity in 1950s American society toward high-pitched male singing. At least there's no evidence to suggest that this type of singing threatened masculinity in any way. But what would happen if Frankie Valli sang in today's society, among the rap stars and hip-hop artists? Would his voice be as readily accepted? When one takes into consideration the success of artists such as Michael Jackson, Prince, George Michael, David Lee Roth, Justin Hawkins, Daniel Bedingfield, Therese Nash, aka The Dream, and Justin Timberlake, one cannot help but face the fact that singing in one's falsetto does not necessarily damage one's career. Neither have low-voiced females such as Nina Simone, Eartha Kitt, Diamanda Galas, Toni Braxton, or Michelle Indigeo-Cello experienced widespread negative criticism based on the pitch of their voices alone. Then what does cause a voice to be ostracized? Could an artist use his or her voice in a disparate context so as to elicit a less than rosy reaction? Let's consider this idea for a moment by looking at some, for lack of a better term, oddballs. Listen to this. The song entitled Barcelona from the album of the same name evolved from a collaborative effort between Freddie Mercury of the band Queen and the legendary opera diva Montserrat Caballé. Mercury became obsessed with Caballé after hearing her sing several times at Covent Garden. Then in the early 80s, when he was on tour in Barcelona, they happened to meet and, after becoming friends, embarked upon a joint recording venture. Having recorded albums such as A Night at the Opera of Bohemian Rhapsody fame, in which Mercury sings a well-developed soprano-ranged high B-flat, a project such as this one does not seem out of the box for Mercury. But for Caballé, who had zero experience with pop styles, could not even begin to disguise the bel canto techniques used in her singing, and meet Mercury halfway. Upon first hearing, this combination creates an awkwardness, a mix of genres that perhaps should be separate. However, one will find it impossible to deny that the skill with which both singers use their voices in their respective milieus exceeds the typical professionalism required to create a hit song. The song was never released in the United States, but when faced with the fact that it peaked at number 8 on the British pop charts in 1987, and then again, years later in 1992, at number 2 due to the song's selection for the Olympic Games held in Barcelona that summer, it's hard to deny that there existed a social context for this special pairing of voices. Could it be that Freddie Mercury's popularity trumped popular culture's trend to be aesthetically banal? Or is it that the voices themselves created an atmosphere that helped the average listener to abandon expectation and appreciate the music as a cultural phenomenon? Let's listen to another extraordinary voice from pop history. Klaus Domi, born in Germany in 1944, moved to Berlin in the 1960s to study music. Then in 1972, he moved to New York City, where he became a voice student of bel canto opera as a countertenor and supported himself as a pastry chef. At that time, there was little public demand for Klaus's special talent. Klaus did not make his first public appearance until 1978, at the age of 34, in a new wave vaudeville show, for which he created a persona, an alien life form from another planet, a la Ziggy Stardust, and sang Mon cœur sur votre voix from Saint-Saëns' Samson and Delilah. His performances were so professional that Nomi gained a considerable cult following, not only in the Manhattan performance art scene, but he performed with David Bowie on Saturday Night Live in 79, was assigned to RCA in 1980, and then went on a tour of the Midwest featuring the slogan, "You don't know me." Not so unexpectedly, his look met with wild approval in Japan, and it was not until he opened for a concert of the heavy metal band Twisted Sister in New Jersey that he met with much resistance. The difference here must be purely musical. Nomi's look and sound did not penetrate America as a whole, but did ravage the continental European pop scene during the early 80s, particularly France. Klaus died of AIDS complications in 1983. During the final months of his life, he had forsaken his monochromatic spacesuit for an outfit from the 1650s, and was having some success finally as a singer of Baroque opera. In fact, his third and last album, entitled Encore, featured 7 pop songs, a song from The Wizard of Oz, 2 art songs by Purcell and Schumann, an aria from Dido and Aeneas, and his signature aria from Samson and Delilah. Now, I fully realize that I have chosen representative examples from a very specific time period, but my hope is that by doing so, I have at least opened a discussion of the voice and its perception and reception in culture. What are the specific ingredients that must coalesce to create phenomenal or enduring success for voices that go against the metaphorical grain? What is the metaphorical grain? What role does culture play in the acceptance of certain voices and the rejection of others? Or is it the act of singing itself that is tantamount to the cultural other? Is it the act of singing that sets us free? Is the solution to this question a combination of such ideas? If a socio-musicological theory could be developed regarding this subject, it would help to further the research regarding many phenomena of singing throughout music history, such as the development of chant in pagan, early Jewish, and Christian traditions, the troubadours and trouberites of medieval France, the onegato tradition of Japanese kabuki theater, the castrato of the 17th and 18th centuries, female pansrills in 19th century opera, transgender radio artists of Argentina in the 1930s, the artists presented in today's presentation, or even this guy. The song is entitled The Mm-Mm Song by the Crash Test Dummies. The song is, well, beyond horrible, and the extremely low voice of the lead singer sounds like a cow, softly lowing. But
Canada hates you right now.
But back in 1993, this song reached number 4 on the US Billboard charts, number 2 in the UK, and number 1 in Australia. Didn't do so well in Canada, by the way. Based on the lead singer's voice alone. The popularity of voices like this one makes me wonder. I welcome your thoughts and comments.
Ooh.